I have my Crew debit card. Welcome. If you are watching this, you're probably in the subculture of people who are moving from Qube to Crew. If you're not, I'm not really sure why you're watching this, but you might be about to find yourself falling down a really interesting rabbit hole of budgeting, bank app kind of stuff. And honestly, stay around. You're gonna love it, but you can't go back. I mean, once you realize how much cooler other stuff is, you can't go back to Monarch or Rocket Money or whatever silly stuff is out there. It's silly and it's dumb. Compared to this, and I mean dumb not in like an insulting you way, but in like a literally is less smart of a app. So if you see my first video, then you know I got some stuff wrong, and also I just didn't have as much data. I was trying to like just get the information I had found out of my head and onto something that I could send people that are trying to help to migrate from Qube. And now I've had my debit card for a week. And I immediately moved all my stuff over there. So I've been fully Crew for a week. And I've got some thoughts, follow-ups, questions that y'all asked in comments on the previous video that I want to answer. And we'll see what happens. So first thing from using it for a week, I have been able to use it just spending around town and whatever else. And, doing the actual manual, turning on the card and swiping and tapping and whatever else. I love that if you come from Qube, this is a tappable card, which is kind of nice. We were wishing that would be the case with the Qube card at some point. Maybe could still at some point, but anyway. That's been nice. Got it added to Apple Pay and all that kind of stuff. It's working great. I've had several bills come through already as well, which is giving me a good test of that. Real quick, I want to say when you're migrating over to Crew, I had to wait for a few reasons. I had to wait all the way until I have my debit card in person. I know that technically you can with the virtual cards feature. You could go ahead and spend from Crew around and stuff as just using the virtual cards as soon as you have money over there. But that was not going to be possible for us. A few things we need like a real debit card for to fully move over. Here's what I discovered that could make a big difference for you. On the Crew side, I added my Qube account. If you message them, they will do that quickly, manually adding your Qube account so you can transfer money. What I did as well is went on the Qube side and manually added my Crew account. So when I moved my money over, I moved about 90% of it, left about 10% of it, just in case, I didn't know how many days it was going to take. I wanted to have some money in my spending cubes on Qube to be able to still get gas or coffee or food or whatever, depending on how many days it took to transfer. I pushed the money from the Qube side to Crew, 11 a.m. on Monday. And when I woke up on Tuesday, it was there. And so then I was able to send the rest. So just so you know, that will be faster. That's generally the rule of thumb is pushing money ACH-wise is faster than pulling, because if you're pulling money, so say you're on Crew, you request the money from Qube. That request is to go to Qube. Qube has to even see, do we have that money? Is that amount of money existing here? And they have to approve it and then send the okay to Crew, and then the money goes. Something like that. That could be wrong. I don't know. But something like that. Real life anecdote though, mine was less than 24 hours. A friend of mine who's in the exact same situation, he missed that detail when I was talking through some of this with him, and he requested the money. He pulled the money from the Crew side, and it took an extra day. Took it 2 days. It showed up as like a pending thing on the Crew side pretty early, but it wasn't spendable. It was still like, hey, we're still trying to make sure that money's over there in Qube and get it sent over and stuff. So just one thing that could save you some time. One thing I discovered is I actually discovered this on accident after I did my last video, and someone also commented this as well. I was trying to show my wife the different pockets on Crew and how I was annoyed at the order and that kind of thing. I still think there should be like automatic sorting thing, either sorting by like alphabetical or amount or something. But I was showing her how nice it would be. So nice if you could just tap one and move it. And I was holding my finger on one of the pockets, and then boom, it starts moving. Like you can hold your finger on a pocket and move it around in the list. So kind of no brainer. You may have discovered that already. Somebody commented that. Silly me. That's really helpful. The thing is, it's just so annoying to manually move your pockets around. So don't be silly like I was. Make your pockets in the order you want them to be in. That's all I gotta do. I don't know what I was thinking. I just made them in. I guess I thought maybe I'll make them in the order I don't want them to be in. And that was just not the right thought. That's just not what I should have done. So that's nice and easy. The other thing you can do is you can hide pockets from that main screen, the first screen you get into when you log into the Crew app. You can hide your pockets or certain pockets so that you don't have to check a long list of them. If you're a Qube user and you moved over, you created a pocket for every cube, which is what I did. And I think most of us probably will. It's nice when on Qube you got spending cubes, bill cubes, goal cubes, and you kind of switch between those tabs. On the Crew side, you don't have that, but you can hide. So what I did is I just hid any pocket that wasn't a spending pocket. And it's not like hidden, it's just not on the main screen. And so then when you click on accounts or the full account screen or whatever, then you see all your pockets again, and you can even spend out of those if you want. But that was really helpful for me because I didn't want to have to scroll forever down, like 30 pockets down, just to get to like the automation rules, virtual cards, setting stuff, transactions, stuff like that. So that's nifty. I would definitely do that if I were you. I have only my spending pockets visible. So one of the things I discovered, I figured, I was pretty sure I knew how to do this, but it made all the difference having the chance to actually try it out. So I wanted to emulate the idea of cubeless. Like if you're coming from Qube, you can set an amount that's like, I can swipe and not open a cube and it will go through. And it's kind of like a backup sort of safety thing. Your phone's dead, you're in an area where there's no reception, whatever it is. And so the way you can do that is, you have your standard Crew checking pocket that's there default. It can't go away. I made my unallocated pocket, which you may have seen in my previous video. Here it is. That's the unallocated pocket is where I put all money that is not yet put into pockets. I fill my pockets, just like I did with my cubes, on the 1st and the 15th. So if I get a paycheck before that, I'm not ready to fill my cubes yet, fill my pockets yet, thank you. I put it in unallocated. What helps about that is that I leave $20 in the Qube. Oh my goodness gracious. The words are too similar. The Crew checking. And on your debit card, you have these cool settings. Someone else commented about this on my previous video. It's really nifty. So you can set it to where when you spend, you've opened a pocket, it could either revert back to just the Crew checking main account, which is what I'm doing to create a cubeless effect. You could have it just stay on the pocket that you've been spending from, so nothing changes. Whatever pocket I open, it stays open until I manually close it. And I can spend a bunch out of the same pocket. Or you can have, after every transaction from your like debit card, it just turns the card back off. Like just kind of going like on Qube if you didn't use cubeless. Where it just, now nothing will swipe, nothing will work until I go open another pocket. So those are the three main, things you can do there. And so what I discovered is by doing $20 in the main Crew checking pocket, basically it's like I got $20 of reserve. And if anything tries to spend more than that, it won't go through. So it'll just decline it for a debit transaction. And after every transaction, it reverts to the Crew checking account, main pocket. And so it gives me that $20 to get some gas from in the middle of nowhere or something like that. It just gives me a little peace of mind. Cubeless can get messy. People have gotten where they get behind on stuff and whatever else. And so you obviously don't want to go too crazy. The whole point of having a cool banking, budgeting mixture app is to be organized and decide every transaction. So that's why I was like, $20 can get me out of trouble. but I don't want to have more in Qubeless than that. The next thing I was going to talk about, so on the rules side of things. So when you're doing rules, that's like an ACH. Well, you can do it for a lot of things, but the thing I would use it for, from Qube, we had virtual debit card numbers and also virtual ACH account numbers. So for your bills, like your mortgage or maybe like a credit card payment or a car payment, some of those bigger bills that they won't let you just do a debit for. We don't have the ability to give them a unique ACH sort of account number for those. It's just the main crew checking what we're giving them. So I had a couple of those bills hit over the last week. And I got an experience of like what it looks like whenever that comes through like this. You can hit make a rule, and that will in the future categorize any transaction that meets those parameters and put it into the correct pocket it should go in. So that works great. Here's a downside in my situation. The couple of credit cards that we use still a little bit, we have a couple things on there, are with Chase. Our mortgage also with Chase. And it seems to me like the parameters of which I can sort of search and give it instructions about, they don't go much deeper than just the like merchant or payee of the transaction. So just Chase. It doesn't let me do like there's the description or the memo of transaction actually has more information. It's like Chase credit card or Chase mortgage or whatever. It doesn't seem to let me distinguish between those two, which means my rule, if I set a rule for those, it's going to apply to both. And I really naturally have a separate credit card payments pocket, and I naturally have a separate mortgage one. So this might be fixable by just creating an automatic, an automation that transfers money between the two pockets every time, because I know my mortgage payment is going to be the same every month. I mean, if it does change, it changes like once a year, And so that might be fixable, but that's something good for you to know. For most people, I would bet that your car payment, your mortgage, your credit card bill, whatever, could easily be from different merchants, and then you're good to go. No big deal. This is not huge. I'm not mad about it. Not a big deal. I'm happy to get 90% of the way to Qube by using Crew. So I'm not too mad about that. Hey, I'm doing one of those things where I realized something I forgot to say that was really important, and I didn't notice it until I was editing the video, and so I'm splicing it in now. I see YouTubers do these, and I kind of thought, man, I'd like to do one of those someday. So here we go. Really important thing is that with the ACH stuff, I've talked about how they don't give you virtual ACH numbers like Qube did, because as long as your balance is high enough, your total balance across all your pockets, any ACH transaction will go through. So your car payment or your mortgage payment or whatever will go through. But here's what's important. Once you assign that to a pocket, this is what I wanted to know if this worked, because I knew how it worked in Qube. It will let your pocket go negative. So you could have a specific pocket go negative when a bill hits and you assign it there, or it automatically assigns there for whatever it is, as long as your total balance across all your pockets is greater than the amount of that bill, of that transaction. But here's where you can get in trouble, and what people would get into trouble with Qubeless and stuff too, is that you can go negative on Qubeless, you could go negative in a pocket on Crew to a certain point. And then once your balance across all your pockets starts getting low, it won't let you do any more. So the area where this can become a problem is if you let some pockets go very negative, but your other pockets are positive. You think you have money, but you actually don't, because you've gone negative on your other pockets. And so just something to keep an eye on and not to mess too much with. Of course, if it's like a bill hit earlier than you expected because of the dates being different because of holiday or something like that, that's not going to be a big deal. But this is an area where you don't want to keep letting things go negative. I can see why they let you do that, because
you don't want ACH transactions to decline so you don't get like a late fee or whatever. But you don't want to keep stacking up negative transactions. Just wanted to say that. But it is good that it lets you go negative in some cases like that. But you just don't want to mess with that too much because your overall balance will actually not be what it says it is. So anyway, just be careful.
What I didn't say earlier about some of the, I said about the allocations thing, like I have my rule set up. I demoed this in the previous video. I have an automation set up where I go manually tap to run it that fills my pockets halfway. So I do that on the 1st, and then I do it on the 15th. And then I talked about the Qube list thing, the way I figured out to set that up. And you may have different ways of doing stuff. Maybe the way you use Qube was different than me. I'm sure it's possible because there's a bunch of ways you could use Qube. You could fill your pockets up all the way, or you could or your cubes, or manually do 25%, so it's like per week or whatever. But what I think this is showing is that it really, whatever way you use Qube, you probably can emulate it over here on Crew. I'm like getting pretty convinced of that. I know my way works. I don't know what your style was with Qube, but it seems like you could set up the right automations, the right rules, and Qubeless on or off, whichever kind of way you used Qube. You can find a way of emulating that over on Crew, which is really, really nice. I was going to say, I mentioned this a second ago, but the virtual cards deal. So if you're someone who you use Apple Pay kind of stuff almost everywhere you go, or you mostly do your shopping kind of plugging in a card number online, as soon as you get your Crew account open, you get some money over there, you could go ahead and use a virtual card. You can add the virtual card to Apple Pay or Google Pay or Samsung Pay or whatever. Pretty sure, I think it works on all of those. Which basically means that while you're waiting for your physical debit card to actually arrive, you can go ahead and be using Crew. And that's pretty sweet. Again, my hesitation with that was some of the places I go where I need a physical card that don't quite have tap to pay yet, even though it's pretty much everywhere now. Gas pumps are one of the biggest issues there. But you could go inside, I guess, and that would be fun. But so if you're someone who's just chomping at the bit, you could do that. You could start spending from Crew using a virtual card immediately. You can tie the virtual card instead of assigning it to a pocket where it's like kind of linked to a pocket. You can basically just say it should follow whatever your main card is doing, even though you don't have your main debit card yet. What that means is that it would act like your main debit card. When you open a pocket, that virtual card will be open. When you have no pockets open, that virtual card will be closed, which operates like that. Another question I got was someone mentioning, this is probably a small number of you, but someone mentioned that they saw something about transfers costing money from Crew. And that is not true. It's only true for wires. And wire transfers cost from like every bank that I know of. And so, but ACH transfers do not cost anything. So don't worry about that. Just wanted to clear that up in case I added to the confusion on that. The last thing I want to speak about was someone commented a feeling. There's been a lot of feelings about the whole Qube thing, the Qube closing or pausing, that kind of stuff. In fact, on the Qube Facebook group, it's actually kind of brutal on there. It's like kind of hard to want to go hang out over there. There's just there's people mad about all kinds of stuff. Totally get it. Whatever. You're frustrated. I, for one, I don't think Qube was being dumb about stuff. I think things just didn't go their way, and it's unfortunate. And I think their partner bank could have been more understanding and chill about it, and they weren't. But you don't have to agree with me. One of the gals over on that Facebook group always goes and comments on everyone's post saying that she's moving to Ally. I'm going to Ally because they've got buckets. I'm going to Ally. Listen, if you're that person, stop saying that and don't go to Ally. What are you doing? You can have an Ally account, that's fine. Just their tools are nothing like Qube or Crew or Envelope. Drives me crazy. Someone needed to hear that. Ally has some interesting tools, but they are not this. It's not anywhere close. It's just categorizing stuff after the fact. It's automating, but there's no conscious spending stuff. It is not the same. So if you're the gal that's been doing that, we get it. You're going to Ally, good for you. Just it's just not the same. And so stop saying it, please. Stop saying it, please. Anyway, but the general frustration that I totally get. And one of the folks who commented on my last video was just saying that how frustrated they were with these budget bank combo apps not staying in business. I've talked to people who've come from like Simple or come from like Envy or Envy or whatever it's called, and then now Qube, and then you've got Crew and Envelope, and it's just I totally get that. There's this feeling of like, oh yeah, another app I moved to that failed or didn't stay in business. And Qube, I don't think they're going anywhere. I think it'll be okay, but maybe that has happened to them too. And I, for one, feel encouraged. Like as I was looking for a substitute for Qube, and the fact that I found that Envelope and Crew both existed and seemed like they were doing really well already. I have a feeling that over time, more and more users, more and more of us. I mean, like Qube had quite a few users. I don't remember the number, but they had gotten quite a bit of momentum. That there's just this larger and larger interest. There's a much bigger user base of people who are wanting this kind of technology. It's very possible, very doable. It's silly that this kind of stuff hasn't existed before. And now that it does, there's a lot of us who are not going to go back to any. They're not going to go back to a standard bank account that just links to a budgeting app that syncs and it's always late and is always just tracking my spending after the fact and not ever helping me make decisions ahead of time. We're just not going to go back. And I think the power here is that for all of these apps, the power here is that it's very so attractive and so much a better idea that there's just no way it's going to go away. The downside is we're going to see how hard it is to like change the direction of an industry like this. These startups are up against some behemoths that don't have any interest in doing this kind of stuff, at least not yet. A Chase or like a Capital One or whatever these other big banks people like nowadays, Wells Fargo, something like that. They don't have any interest in like innovating. There's nothing to innovate about. They just want to make more money, want to keep you. They, of course, add some features like, Plaid and mobile check deposit, like whenever that came out like 15 years ago. But that's it. There's nothing new under the sun. There's not that much incentive for them to help us spend better. But I think if they see more and more users go that way, they'll want to buy, like maybe Crew or Envelope's partner banks, want to buy them or like fully like integrate with them in a way that's like a permanent partnership. And so I just want to say, if you're feeling discouraged or like a little wary of any of these apps, maybe this is another one that only lasts for 2 or 3 years for us. I don't think that's the case. But if that does happen and we have to move apps every 2 or 3 years, I'd still rather do it. Right? I mean, like in the between times, between app moves, I want to have something that works well and actually helps me spend consciously, keeps my finances from descending into chaos. So I just think it's worth it. And I think the more people we get on board on this stuff, I've said before, I was pretty evangelistic about Qube. That's the whole reason I made that video and the whole reason I'm making this one. I got a lot of people moved over to Qube from whatever they're using before it wasn't working. A lot of my friends were using like YNAB or Mint or whatever. And so I feel responsible for that. And I'm helping them move to Crew. But that's just me. That's my little ecosystem. And that's that many more people who are users of a much better idea and have joined in on, this kind of, if you want to call it a movement, of people wanting much better banking tech that actually helps them reach financial goals and not overspend and all that. I think it's powerful enough, potent enough that it's just not going to go away easily. So if that's one of your big things holding you back from maybe moving to Crew, I would say do it. I just don't think it's worth it to go back to another bank and try using a different system, a budgeting app that's delayed, and I actually think it's worth it. So anyway, if there's anything else about Crew, I feel like I kind of breezed through a lot of my points. I'm hoping I didn't miss anything really important that I wanted to talk about. Anything about Crew that you wanted to know about that I said that didn't make sense? It's a question I didn't even address. Let me know. Happy to do another update or just comment my answer. And best of luck. Love to help any way I can, and hope we all find a good solution that works for us. I hope that if you're moving to Crew that it works for you like it did for me. And yeah, good luck.